Sparking new conversations about the disease and also the impact that it has on people, patients, and their families. So we're joined now by Susie Schofield, who is Vice President of the Northwest Chapter of the American Parkinson's Disease Association, and also her husband, John, who has been living with the disease for more than 20 years. Thank you both so much for coming.
Thanks for having us.
To open our eyes to, John, what you are dealing with, and Susie, you guys as a family are dealing with, raising a young son, and also just trying to understand this disease better. Let me start with you, Susie. What do you want people to know most about Parkinson's disease?
Well, you know, it's a little bit of a mystery, I think, for people, at least at our age group, unless you perhaps have a loved one that's living with Parkinson's disease. It typically affects older folks, so maybe grandparents, that type of thing. But there's an increasing number of people who are diagnosed at what's called early onset, which would be under the age of 50. John is one of those people. He was diagnosed at age 33. Today, he's a sprite 54, 55? 55. So, you know, I think that the aspects and symptoms of Parkinson's disease for the older generation versus a younger generation that's trying to maintain a job or have a family life, remain relevant at work, play baseball with your son, those things are different versus maybe you've lived a full life, you have retired, for example, and you have a little bit more time to focus on your health. So they're very different, both very important.
John, what was it like for you at 33 years old, so young, to hear Parkinson's disease was the diagnosis?
Well, I was young enough not to know what the disease was. I didn't even know what it was. The only way I knew it was a bad diagnosis is when I told my friends about it. They got real quiet, so it was kind of a bummer. I had to readjust a lot of my expectations.
And understand what that meant, how it would change your life.
Sure.
Susie, what was it like for you to get that news?
Well, it's funny. Our story is we had just met. We were just starting dating and kind of had that fun date, and he sort of disappeared. It was quiet a bit, and when I next heard from him, he told me about Parkinson's. So I've known John and loved John as long as I've known and managed Parkinson's together with him. We had a lot to learn. But, you know, I think that like any diagnosis, a lot of people, a lot of families deal with heavy news, and you just make adjustments. One thing John has always said is that he doesn't have to befriend Parkinson's, but it's a roommate. It's not going away, and finding ways to work with it within your life. We have a young son. We're too old to have an 8-year-old. But we had, John had an amazing brain surgery. He's always been super glass half full and optimistic. And so we gave fate a chance, and we have youth in our house, and it keeps things light and playful for us. So that's been great.
And gives you hope, and you're looking towards the future.
Sure.
And I want to end with that. What would be your advice for people on resources, on support systems, on places they can turn if they're facing a diagnosis, someone like Neil Diamond or others in our community who need a place to turn?
Well, you're absolutely not alone. It can be obviously a scary diagnosis when you need to gather some information. As a board member with the American Parkinson's Disease Association, we really focus on 3 things, on education, programs, and research. For education, obviously, it's learning about your stage of the condition, what can be done, what resources are available. Programs range from exercise to sessions with physicians if you're newly diagnosed, or if you're more advanced in the disease, how to live comfortably, how to travel, how it affects speech or daily movements, dealing with work or filing disability, those kinds of things. There's lots of assistance with those programs. And then finally, I believe true hope is in research. Every conversation ends with go science. So the APDA Northwest focuses on all 3 of those things, and we fund local research as well as feed into the national APDA group that then funds larger programs in partnership with NIH. So,
well, that is great news, and we'll make sure we get all of that information on our website so that people
Awesome.
can go there for the support that they need. John and Susie, thank you much for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for having us.